Scrapped plans for a released WWE star have been revealed. I'll just wait here for the headline to appear on that one.
Well, Tom, it's me editing these, and I can't do them.
Oh, so no words flashing up, right? Okay.
No.
All right, we'll crack on then. So, we've got some scrap plans for a released WWE star to talk about. Somebody that I think you and I both said had so much potential. In WWE before they were let go. We're going to touch on that a little bit. Some big returns for New Japan Pro Wrestling over the weekend as well. But let's get into the big story of the weekend, which of course was the releases from WWE just before we started the weekend. And Dave Meltzer, so take with a pinch of salt, is reporting today that WWE plans to let people go if they don't see improvement within 90 days. This is a new system that they're clearly going for as they let people go. They'll add new signings to the roster. Meltzer verbatim said, we're going to be seeing more and more of this when it comes to NXT. People that are just going to make decisions that they are bringing in a lot of new people in. If they don't make progress, they're going to get rid of you. Now, this is basically WWE bringing in a probation period, which is pretty common in most jobs, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's not especially surprising, but it sounds more now like you're going to be able to set your watch to these releases. A lot of people were surprised when they didn't happen a couple of weeks ago because that's when they were reportedly going to take place. But now, yeah, every 90 days or so, if you don't show improvement, you're gone. And I would expect to see fewer big names as part of this. I think these are going to be recent signees that maybe don't quite have what it takes to be a WWE superstar, that they don't see the potential in. But time will tell on this. Maybe we will see some big uns too.
One of those that was released over the weekend was Malcolm Bivens. A lot of love. For everybody that got released, a lot of love, but especially for Malcolm Bivens. You made a comment about Bivens potentially being the next Bobby Heenan in terms of that guy that could manage a whole roster of people and do it with flourish and panache and charisma.
They're big words.
They're big words, but you know what? I actually agree with you. Like
he's that good.
Yeah, he truly is. Fightful have given us some details of one of those people that Bivens could have potentially been managing, haven't they?
Yeah, and it's a big one, literally. Apparently he was offered Omos a few months ago before MVP was solidified as Omos's manager. But Bivens said that he had no desire to re-sign, which, you know what, is really, really good news, right? Because you're offered somebody like that. Omos isn't going anywhere. They've got big plans for big Omos. So to be offered somebody like that, somebody who needs a mouthpiece, that's a serious, a significant role on the main roster there for Bivens. He said no, and that indicates to me at least that he's got offers elsewhere. He's going to be absolutely A-okay, and that I think he probably knows what he's doing. As you said, he had a lot of love on social media. A lot of people in the wrestling industry know how talented he is, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him in ROH, in Impact, somewhere pretty prominent very, very soon.
Would it shock you the thought of Bivens going away and putting that talent to use away from wrestling? We know he's got a stand-up show coming up, and I wonder whether this is Bivens kind of going, you know what, I'm working within this particular system, but I think I might bet on myself for a little while now.
I love that. I hadn't even really considered that because he's been around wrestling for an awful long time, but you're right, he's starting to put his fingers in other pies now. And that's what I sort of meant when I said the Bobby Heenan thing. And I saw a few comments being like, oh, well, fine, but there's only one brain. And they are totally right. But I remember Vince McMahon once saying on a documentary about Brain, he was like, he could have literally done anything. In wrestling, he was huge, but he could have been a talk show host. He could have been a comedian. And that's what I see in Bivens, is this sort of this versatility and this... He's just incredibly funny, incredibly entertaining. And yeah, you're right, he could literally do anything.
Nobody's saying replace Bobby Heenan. No one's saying strike Bobby Heenan from the history books at all. But
Heenan's my favourite manager ever. I wouldn't be saying that if I didn't think that Bivens was that good.
Dakota Kai, another name released at the same time as Bivens. Her contract was set to expire in April of 2023. And another one very much like Bivens, who, according to Fightful, had made it clear that she didn't plan on re-signing, whether or not there were conversations about that. This is despite the fact that she'd had she'd had a little bit of interest from doing dark matches and stuff on SmackDown and Raw, but there were no plans for her to get a call-up. So you can imagine someone like Dakota Kai, who'd been with WWE for so many years, to be at this point where they still go, we don't quite know what we're going to do with you yet. Do you want to sign again? She probably just went, no, I think I'm going to go and see what else is out there.
That's the thing. People have been burned now, haven't they? But I imagine the temptation to re-sign is less, because what happens if they Mustafa Ali you, for example? Like, you re-signed for 3 years, for 5 years or whatever, and then they still say, okay, we've got nothing for you, or worse, they've got a bunch of really crap creative like they had for Ali. So maybe people don't want to do that, and obviously all the wrestlers are talking, and although no sort of formal discussions can be had between your Tony Khans and your Dakota Kais, for example, the rumblings will have been there. If there was interest, she would know about it. And it's a lazy thing to do, to just go, hey, Dakota Kai to AEW. But I think that's probably where she'll end up. And I don't really have a problem with it, because I don't think AEW need any more men, but they should be using their women better, to be honest, to begin with. But Dakota Kai would actually be a welcome addition to that roster, in the same way that Malcolm Bivens was. They could have another manager, and I don't think that hurts them too much. One
of those women from the AEW roster, of course, is Rio, who we haven't seen in quite some time. She's apparently on the march back, isn't she, Adam?
She is. The Midwest Mark's podcast, getting a big scoop here. She said that apparently on her blog that she's healed up and will soon be returning to the US, and she will resume touring with the with All Elite Wrestling. So the Midwest Mark's podcast breaking that news via the blog. They were the first ones to get to it. She was all the way taken off TV back in January, right? She had the match with Britt at Battle of the Belts. And had a broken collarbone, but then she worked through the whole match as well. Bonkers. I broke my collarbone when I was 3 years old, and I still remember the pain to this day.
And you struggled with the match with Britt Baker as well.
I did, yeah, but I still beat her.
You did, mate. You were great.
Obviously.
Riho, look out for her coming back very, very soon. Juice Robinson coming back immediately. So it was a memorable night for New Japan at Wrestling Dontaku. We saw multiple title changes. I think pretty much all but the main belt changed hands on that show. We saw Juice Robinson make a return, attacking Tanahashi after picking up the US title. He left with the belt as well.
Big shocker.
Juice Robinson. Yeah, because last time we spoke about him, he was away.
That's it. He said that, oh man, I'm done with wrestling now. He was working us. He knew this was happening. He was working us. Good for him. A very big, very memorable moment. Speaking of which, Jay White returning as well, confronting Okada after the main event. They brawl. He lays out Okada with the Blade Runner, and then the show ends with Bullet Club standing very, very tall, and look at them all now. Jay White's there, Juice Robinson, Carl Anderson, Doc Gallows, Bad Luck Fale, Gato, Ishimori, Chase Owens, all standing tall to end the show. A lot going on that event. It was apparently fantastic. I've only seen clips so far, so I'm going to be watching that today.
Big showing for the Bullet Club. It very much felt like a regalvanizing of the Bullet Club. In New Japan,
and I think they need
over
that.
The weekend. They certainly do. We'll have more news throughout the day at Cultaholic.com. And how high can Ricochet jump? Adam Paciuti asks the questions that you're too afraid to ask when we had a chance to chat with Ricochet at WWE Newcastle.
He looks so little, doesn't he?
No, you're just tall. You need to do that.
They hate it. His face dropped. He walked in and he thought you were interviewing him. Then he saw this 6'5" gangly freak of a man. You got to stand next to him, and he's not going to Tom Phillips you, Trev.
You should have Tom Phillips'd him, mate. Tom Phillips'd him. You can watch that now and compare sizes at youtube.com/Cultaholic. Stay safe. Love you. Bye.